Hey guys, welcome to this special edition of the Words with Woodsman podcast. This is our 9th episode, guys. Like, how does that feel?
Great.
Good. Yeah. Great. Andy's over here ordering food. What did you order?
I didn't get to order it yet.
You didn't get. I started it.
You were like 3, 2, 1, go.
He's over here talking about a blooming onion, and
that does sound good.
yeah. And where were you ordering from?
I was looking at Outback.
Outback. Oh, well, they do
Australian.
They do have a good blooming onion.
It's a long ways for delivery, but
It might be cold.
Hey, it was said free delivery if I order enough.
yeah, free delivery. That's free's great.
I like onions in any form as long as they're cooked.
Yeah.
I guess that's
Okay.
not really any form.
There's a lot of forms where they're not cooked.
I don't like raw onions.
If you get a hot dog, you don't put the onions on it?
No.
Oh,
What?
No.
man.
I love a grilled onion. I had fish the other night, and the best thing in the world, like when you fry fish, is to throw it in the grease and just let it kind of shrivel up a little bit, and it's...
Was that the bass?
No, it was some flounder. That was the time before that.
Okay, could you send me a picture of that one?
We had some leftover flounder and redfish from a trip to Mississippi at one point in time. So, yeah. Well, we are in a special edition. We have a guest with us today, old Zach.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, man, we're glad that you're here. For those of you who, actually everyone that's watching is getting to meet Zach for the very first time, unless you're kin to him. But anyways, Zach's been coming to Woodsman, been part of our group for over a year now.
Yeah.
Found us on Facebook, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And he, we baptized you last year, and even cooler than, me getting to baptize you, you got to baptize your son.
Yeah.
Last year.
Yeah.
It's such a cool thing. Mm-hmm. And so we wanted to, this is a special edition, so we wanted to give you a little bit more time today to be able to get on here and share your story and kind of share, where God's taking you.
Yeah.
And let's just get to know you and let the people listening get to know you. And I'm sure, Randy and Andy will throw something at you every now and again.
Oh, yeah.
But
Waiting on that.
No, we're good.
You're good?
Yeah. We got the memo. We have to behave.
Who said that?
Hey, he's secretly trying out for an opening.
Yeah. What Randy doesn't know, we're auditioning you for Randy's spot. So hey, if this goes well, maybe we'll put you in his chair and
All right.
Big seat to fill.
Yeah.
Because I'm a big boy.
it's a seat to fill. Yes.
Yeah.
Won't be that hard.
No, it won't.
Well, Zach, let's go ahead and kind of get started. You just kind of share with us kind of where were you and kind of how you got to where you are today.
Okay. Yeah. I was raised here in Knoxville. My mom and dad, they were both, I had both loving parents, They always loved me and supported me throughout everything. They were semi-active in church. They moved here from, I was actually born in Denver, but they moved here when I was a year old. So
Colorado?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's another
I
Denver.
was going to say, is there another
Oh,
Denver
yeah.
that we don't know about? I didn't know.
That took me off guard.
I know there's a Cuba, Alabama, so I just want to point that out.
We've discussed the
Interesting.
schooling. Mississippi is questionable.
Yeah.
Alabama,
Yeah.
that's different set altogether.
Yeah. They moved here from Colorado when I was about a year old, so I pretty much grew up here. They were active in church. I had 2 older sisters as well, and I remember going to church as a kid. I believed in God, but as far as getting to know Him or have a relationship with Him, it only went as far as about like I knew the Sunday school stories, Noah's Ark, just the David and Goliath, I didn't ever really dig into the Bible, and I guess I was about 8 years old. My parents got divorced and my mom moved out, and she moved in to a neighborhood, and, I spent time at her house and my dad's house, and, over in her neighborhood, I kind of started hanging out with the wrong crowd. you know.
So Randy.
Yeah, kind of a bunch of Randys.
Did the same thing in the reservation when I lived on the reservation. Was with the wrong crowd.
Yeah.
I get you there.
Yeah. And of course they were a few years older than me, so I was even more easily influenced. And they were, smoking cigarettes in the woods and spray painting stuff and just classic naughty teenager stuff. But so that was when I kind of church wasn't a thing once my parents got divorced. I don't think either one of them continued going to church after the divorce. So I wasn't going to church, and that's when I kind of started straying from God altogether. I'd say around 12, 13. I was in probably 8th grade. By the time I hit that age, I was smoking weed, and I'd tried drinking, skipping school here and there, smoking cigarettes. That carried on all the way through high school. By the time I got to high school, that's all I wanted to do was party. I'd say I was on my way to being an alcoholic by high school.
Oh, wow.
Or in high school. That's all I wanted to do was go party on the weekends. And that eventually, later on in high school, I was partying on weeknights, skipping school. So by 17, I got arrested for underage consumption and I think it was drug paraphernalia. They took me to juvenile, and it kind of shook me up a little bit, but not enough to make me even think about slowing down at all. So I turned 18 a week into my senior year. So they I don't know, in Tennessee they can come after your parents for truancy if you miss school. So once I turned 18, I was like, well, they can't come after my mom anymore. So if I don't feel like going to school, I'm not going. So that just partying, drinking, and all that continued. I got in a fight with a guy, and his parents ended up pressing assault charges on me because I was 18, he was 17. So.
Oh yeah, that little bit of difference.
Yeah. So I was in high school. We were both in the same grade, but I ended up getting arrested for that. Adult, had to go to adult jail, the real jail.
The big boy jail.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it scared me a little bit, but not enough to slow me down. I was 19, out of high school. I didn't graduate high school. I ended up getting my GED. I'd say 3 weeks into my senior year, I was like, nah,
You already checked out.
I checked out. But high school, right out of high school, probably 19, hanging out with the wrong crowd, wrong guys, just continuing all that. I didn't care about any consequences. I thought, I didn't care about affecting anyone else. I was like, it's my life. I can live it how I want. Strayed far, far from God. That wasn't even God, church, anything like that. Wasn't even a.
Well, I mean, think about it, Zach. You were running around doing what you wanted, and nobody's talking about God to you.
Right.
So why would earlier you were saying you guys used to go to church when your parents were together, and once they separated, it was a free for all for you.
Yeah.
I mean, you got two parents, and more than likely, in most divorces, fight amongst themselves and forget about there's a kid involved.
Yeah.
And in your case, they had three. So, yeah, I mean, I can understand where you're coming from in that because my mom had to raise me at a very young age, and
yeah,
the fact I'm still alive is impressive.
That's a lot of people's stories.
Yeah, I don't think people realize what a divorce can do to a kid, and parents forget sometimes, and they use kids for their fight when they're fighting against each other, and I don't think they understand what a mother and father can do if they work together.
Right.
And in your case, I can use mine. I'm a stepdad, right? Both my boys, I call them my boys. They're my stepkids.
Yeah.
Call me dad. But I knew our family had to be together. We had to group together. Didn't matter what mom's in her divorce and things like that. they were never part of that battle. And that's what we laid out front to make sure we had a family that bonded.
Yeah.
Because kids, it's easy for straight. You're not my dad. I'm not looking to become your dad, but I'm going to be a father,
Right.
whether I'm biological or not. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to show you the way you need to be treating family, your mother, your siblings, and others. And I think that helped us. I think it's one of the things where some people don't get that, unfortunately, and it stinks.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we shared this the very first episode of, that's at the heart of, what Woodsman is.
Yeah.
Of, there's dad has power in the home. There was a stat, and I'll share this quickly so we can get back to your story, but there was a stat that if the father of the home comes to know Jesus, starts his relationship with Jesus, there's a 96% chance the rest of his family will follow. If mom, it's literally cut in half. It's like a 46% chance. And that's nothing against mom, but what happens in that scenario is mom gives her life to Jesus, and then she's competing against what dad wants to do and what the kids want to do, so she's kind of stuck in the middle. And so that kind of makes sense why that's cut in half. And then if the kid comes to know Jesus first, there's only a 6% chance that they'll be able to lead the rest of their family in that direction. So there's power in what dad...
And Zach, prime example. You start following, Mason's like, what's this about?
Yeah.
Dad got baptized? Dunk me? You know what I mean? So, I mean, because a son wants to be like their dad. It's their Superman.
Yeah.
So
Some of us actually are.
Gave his life to Jesus. He gave his life to Jesus in a Pizza Hut.
yeah,
That's true.
I didn't know Pizza Huts were still open, but he gave his life to Jesus there.
yeah. So it's just, I don't think people realize it, and as parents sometimes we become selfish.
Yeah.
So didn't mean to really cut you off, but your story to me, from what I started and where mine was backwards to you. I was hellion as a young kid, but because my mom got remarried and moved to Ohio, I was around a bunch of people that were talking about Jesus. I was kind of like, well, who's this guy? And I wanted to rebel against, but I wasn't as stupid because these kids, friends, were like, we don't do that. And I kind of was forced to follow them and become a better person, because who knows where I would have been. So, So for you did it after.
Right.
Where I did it early, but yeah.
We're getting to that.
Well, and for you, it keeps getting bumpy, huh?
Yeah, for sure. I was about 19, just hanging out with the wrong crowd. We were all sitting around one night and thought it was a good idea to go and rob a guy who was selling weed that we knew. He knew us, so we went over there and he let us in. Long story short, cops ended up showing up. So I got arrested, and that violated my probation that I was already on for the fight. So they took me to jail. I bonded out, but then they came I think I went to court, and they arrested me in court for the violation of the probation. So I had to sit in there for, I think it was about 6 months, and I was 18 in, grown adult jail. And that definitely kind of shook me up a little bit. And of course I was crying out to God then, because I believed in God, but like I said, I had no connection to him, no relationship. Really only prayed in a situation like that, help me, get me out of this one.
When most people pray,
Everybody's a Christian in a foxhole.
Yeah. And that's very true too. But I ended up getting released out of there to a halfway house, and it was like 5 days after my 19th birthday that I was excited I got to get out of there. But I went to a halfway house. I was there for 11 months, and I was roommates with, I lived in a house with a couple guys that had been to prison for 12, 15 years, 20 years. There's a guy in there that had did a life sentence. He murdered a guy in the 70s and got out in the early 2000s and was on parole for life. So kind of going through that situation was it was definitely eye-opening. And I did stay sober while I was there at that halfway house. And, you know, I started kind of getting closer to God. I was forced to go to AA meetings while I was there. And, you know, they always talk about a higher power. And so I got a little closer to God, and my relationship with my family got better. Eventually left there because I ended up getting 8 years probation for the burglary. And so as soon as I found that out, I was like, well, I'm out of here. Time to leave this place. You know, I didn't hate being there, but I was ready to leave. You know, there was a lot of rules and whatever. So I left there. And the very first night I found out that I got 8 years probation, I went out to a club downtown and got caught underage drinking, underage consumption again. So the first time I ever met my probation officer, I had to say, hey, by the way, I got an underage consumption last night. You know, so
That was a fun meeting.
it was right down. Yeah. It was right, you know, right back down the same track again. And I mean, that continued up until I was probably, I guess, about 24, 23, early 20s. Me and my dad were not super close. I mean, he always made sure I was taken care of, and we did have a relationship, but we weren't super close. And he called me, and he just out of nowhere, he's like, I have cancer. And I'm like, okay. And then I'd never heard him emotional before, you know, and I could tell he was kind of emotional, and he just said, I got to go, and hung up the phone. And I was like, wow. You know, the way my mind worked back then, I was so selfish. I was like, man, how's he going to call me and tell me he has cancer and hang up? You know, that's the way my mind was working. Now, looking back on that and being a father, I was like, man, you know, I could almost feel his...
Try having that conversation with your son.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
He didn't know what to say. He didn't.
Yeah, you know?
How do you say that? You know?
He's looking
Yeah.
out for you and for himself and for the future, and it hit him at once, you know?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so what happened?
So I didn't find this out till a couple days later. I went over there, and he had, it was stage 4 colon cancer, but it had already spread to his liver when they even found it. Went to the doctor for a stomach aches, basically. And, but they only gave him 6 months to live. He ended up living 4.5 years after that. And in that time, we became closer than I'd ever been in my life. You know, I mean, that was definitely a God thing when I look back at it. You know, it's kind of funny when I was writing this out, mapping it out. I didn't see it back then, but it's like everything, I just see God all through it now when I go back, you know?
Yeah.
But, that was definitely a God thing right there, I think. You
He
know,
gave you an extra 4 years.
Yeah, yeah. And we became closer like I said, than we'd ever been in my life, you know. He passed when I was about to turn 24. It was close to my birthday. It was like 10 days before my birthday. And then, I mean, that that definitely, you know, changed things for me. But it still didn't slow me down all the way, you know, I still was living apart from God, didn't have a relationship with him. And then my mid-20s, I ended up getting a DUI. I got caught drunk driving, went to jail for that, bonded out, and then, I don't know, 2 weeks later at the most, 2 plainclothes cops showed up at my work and were like, we got a warrant for your arrest. I'm like, for what? And they're like, it says violation of probation. And I'm like, oh, no, because I'm still on probation at this point. And I'm like, oh, no, I talked to my probation officer about that. It's, it's all good. I've been to jail and bonded out. And they're like, yeah. They're like, no, you're coming with us right now. So back in jail, I think I was in there about 10 days or so. And they kind of basically released me out back under the supervision of my probation officer. So I was lucky I didn't go to prison then. I don't know how I made it that 8 years on probation without going to prison. I think God was working there too, even when I didn't see it or even know it. But I mean, that kept on. Even though I was on probation, I got a little smarter about the drinking and driving, and I'm very thankful that I never hurt anybody or hurt myself doing that, because I did it all the time.
Yeah.
I didn't see a problem with it.
That was God's protection right there.
Yeah. And I actually, well, I wasn't drunk, but I flipped a car. I rolled a car like 3 or 4 times. No seatbelt, nothing, and no.
Just walked away?
Yeah, no injuries whatsoever.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I just that type of behavior and that lifestyle that I'd been so accustomed to, that kept on until I was 28, 29, and again, it was around my birthday. I had pain in my leg, and I started going to a orthopedic. They were doing cortisone shots. Nothing was helping, and it was just like this. I would get this like unbearable pain where it would just like cripple me. I'm just laying in the bed, and they finally did an MRI, and the doctor, I actually went to school with his kids. He came in. He was like, yeah. He's like, I'm referring you to Vanderbilt. I'm like, okay.
That's not a good sign.
Yeah. I'm like, okay. And he's like, there's definitely something in there, and they're gonna want to go in and get a piece of it and see what's going on. I'm just totally just taken back. I'm not thinking, it could be cancer or anything. And then he asked if he could pray with me. And I'm like, yeah, sure.
Wow.
But I'm also kind of like,
That's encouraging
pray.
and scary at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm just going to point that out.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, hey, kudos, like, hey, way to go, doctor. But at the same time, you just terrified me.
yeah.
Well, yeah, especially, can I pray for you after you just told me I'm going to send you to Vanderbilt?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
please do now.
Listen,
By all means, doctors, please pray for people.
Yeah.
We're definitely
Yeah.
going to need to pray for you here.
Yeah. It definitely had me rattled, because
Yeah.
I'm like,
I would say so.
but it ended up being, so I went to Vanderbilt and got a biopsy, and at first they were thinking it was bone cancer. They thought it
Osteogenic
was,
sarcoma.
Yep, sarcoma. And the treatment for that would have been
Andy knows
amputation.
Yeah.
That's your takeaway from this.
I didn't know. I've never heard Andy say a word that big.
Yeah, sorry.
I just know it by sarcoma. I didn't
You've
even
been
know the
dropping
first
big
part.
words recently, so I figured I'd add a couple.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, it threw us off. Sorry, Zach. We kind of just.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to have to Google, like, what does that
I'm well
mean?
educated. Sorry.
No, that
Please,
was.
please continue.
But they thought it was bone cancer, and the 2 treatments probably would have either been just lose my leg from the knee down, because it was down in my shin bone, down in my leg bone, and or go in, cut the part of the bone out, put a metal rod in. They basically said I'd probably have pain for the rest of my life. with
Neither
that
one of them sound very
Yeah.
enjoyable.
No, yeah, that's what I was thinking. But it ended up being lymphoma, non-Hodgkin's B-cell lymphoma, which is very treatable with chemo and radiation. So that's what I ended up doing. I did chemo, radiation, obviously calling out to God again, scared, not knowing what was going to happen.
Back in the foxhole.
Yep, back in the foxhole. And that was like I said, that was really the only time I prayed or even talked to God was when I'm in that dark, feeling alone, just, oh man, what's going to happen to me now, But I mean, that was definitely a God thing too, because I was out of work for 6 months. Just the fact that it didn't end up being bone cancer and it was something very treatable. And then I was out of work for 6 months, and I basically made it on just donations and people, people that didn't even know me, just finding out and donating is basically how I made it that 6 months not working. So that was definitely a God thing, But I also, at around the same exact time this is all going on, found out I was having my son Mason, which was like kind of bittersweet for me at that age because me and his mother weren't together. So it was kind of like, oh, I'm having a kid, like excited, but at the same time I'm like, oh, I'm having a kid. Like party time's over. Like
This
now,
wasn't the plan.
Yeah, like now I have to actually be more responsible than just going to work.
I think that was God too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. So that was, all going on at the same time. But I started having clear scans in 2013. So fairly quickly, that was in 2012 I got diagnosed. So fairly quickly I started having clear scans.
And you have everything still there? They didn't remove anything? Or?
No, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Because the tumor was actually inside my bone.
Oh, wow.
So when I was in that horrible pain, they told me it was that tumor was growing and expanding inside the bone. So that's why I was so just, it'd lay me down to where I just couldn't do anything.
You're in 2013. The cancer, you've gotten a good report. The scans are coming back.
You got a son coming.
You got a son coming. Kind of how did that affect you, and kind of what was going on then? Were you still gravitated towards the drinking and the partying?
Yeah, I was. And truly, that's how bad of an alcoholic I was. None of that stuff like scared me away from drinking or partying or, being out somewhere I'm not supposed to be. Now it slowed me down. Now in that time when I was having treatment and stuff like that, I had definitely slowed down and chilled out.
And the thing is those addictions and those demons and all those different things that you deal with that, like they hold on to you.
Yeah.
And they don't want to let go. And what I'm really excited about this, I love about you telling this, because I know I've heard your story, I know where this is going.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you right now, there's someone listening right now that they probably don't think there's any hope for them. And they think, I'll never kick this, whether it's something that's public, that more than just they know about, or it might even be something hidden private that they're struggling with, that they're going, man, I don't think so. Yeah, keep going.
Well, I think there's people that call out to God like you did and call it in a foxhole in jail, wherever it is, and they think that God's not listening. So the coolest thing that you said was that you looked back and you can see God in every aspect. And times were hard. Your story, I'm excited to hear what's next, but your story's tough. But God was still with you the whole way. And I think people are still, like Josh said, in those dark days, they haven't seen the light from the other side.
It's hard to see God in that moment, right?
Yeah.
You're like, well, he don't care about me, or he's not helping me. But here's the deal. Later on down the road, you might look back and go, oh my gosh, I can see him now. I can see where he was.
I think we talked about it last week, that instant. When I pray, I want it now, instant.
Yeah, that microwave.
Yeah.
I want my Hot Pocket right now.
Popcorn is so good.
Yep.
Could you imagine having to start a fire and put it on the thing?
Yeah.
But so in the Bible, Josh, so on the mountain, I didn't hear Jesus in the earthquake, in the wind, in the...
Yeah, it's Elijah. Elijah dealt with that, right? So he's coming out. The queen just threatened to kill him, right? And so he goes through this whole deal, and he goes through depression with that, and he goes through those dark moments, and he gets in the mountain. He said, hey, there was a great wind, but God wasn't in the wind. There was a fire, but God wasn't in the fire. There was this great boom, or I might be misquoting it.
Earthquake.
But the point is I didn't hear God in that, but there was a still small voice. And I heard a pastor say one time, I thought this was so good. He said, why does God whisper?
Because he was that close to you.
Because he's close.
He's that close. So with all that going on, he was right there. Sorry, Randy.
You're okay. You can be right there.
Andy is that close. But yeah, brother, keep going, man. So you got the clear on the cancer diagnosis. You've had Mason's entered this world.
Right.
Kind of where did we go from there?
Like I said, it slowed me down some. I tried to be smarter about things, not drink and drive, but I mean, I was still.
That was a smart decision.
Yeah. But I was still, drinking and, going to bars and, cause, like I said, me and his mother weren't together, so we didn't live together. So, if I didn't have him, I was still free to do whatever. So about 2014, I just want to put this in here because it comes in later in the story, but I ended up meeting my girlfriend, Erin, who played a huge role in bringing me back to God. So, that's definitely a God thing, bringing her into my life. And so around 2015, despite, getting through all that, I was out at a bar one night and got super drunk, super quick. I think I even might have used that excuse. I think I said, I think somebody might have put something in my drink that night. No way I got that drunk that fast. Like, well, you probably did 6 or 7 shots and was slamming beers. So yeah, you did get drunk that fast. And so they had called me a cab, and they just wanted me out of there. They were just like, just call them a cab.
It was just before the days of Uber.
Yeah. Well, it was just taking off.
Uber
just
wasn't big enough yet.
Yeah. And I think they were just like, let's just get him out of here. If we can get him in the back of a cab, like, he's not our problem anymore. So I had this cab driver take me to a house that I had moved out of about 2 or 3 months before that. So we pull up to the house, and I'm like, well, why did you bring me here? I don't live here. He's like, this is where you told me to go. So at this point, he's getting frustrated. I don't even have money to pay for the cab. And one thing leads to another. Somehow a window got broken. Well, next thing I know, I'm fighting this cab driver who's like 6'5" in a dead-end street that I used to live on. And next thing I know, he's back in the cab and takes off.
Could you imagine being the owners of that house, like the new owners, and they're like this? There's a guy in a cab, and they're fighting in my front yard.
Yeah.
This guy's like, "This isn't my house." The cab's like, "This is your house."
It is now.
Yeah, but cops showed up, and he took off, and if I remember it right, I'm pretty sure I just sat down on the curb and was just smoking a cigarette or something. Next thing I know, cops show up, of course, arrest me, take me to jail. And, I'm kind of sitting there like, man, I hadn't been in trouble in quite some time at this point, and I'm like, man, I got a son now, and, I missed work the next day because I didn't get out of jail till 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, whatever. And so, that kind of hit me kind of hard, but, again, it wasn't enough to just completely make me stop, Still cried out to God, I'm sure, when I was in jail or whenever I got out of jail, just, get me out of this one. But still
one more
enough.
time.
One more time.
Yeah.
It's the last time, guys.
Promise this time.
This is the magic number. But that, and even after that, despite that, I was still didn't give up drinking. I didn't ever think I'd stop drinking. In my life, I just figured I'd do it my whole
You
life.
just accepted that it was part of it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, I didn't think it was like crazy to get arrested. I was like, well, people
That
get
was
arrested.
normal.
Yeah, like people get arrested. But that went up all the way to 2019. And so that was just 4 more years of that. And in 2020, I made the decision to quit drinking. I had tried that before many, many, many times. And just never, I might have made it, 3 weeks here, 30 days here, 60 days maybe, but always went back to it. But this time, God showed up for sure. I mean, I can't explain it that, for 20 to 25 years, I was doing the same thing, living the same way, drinking, tried to quit, couldn't ever do it. And this time, I mean, I woke up that day and I no longer had a desire to drink whatsoever. I mean, still to this day, it's been 5 years now. No, I mean, I can sit around people drinking.
Wow.
Congratulations.
I can sit there and, I can sit there with people drinking. I'm gonna leave because drunk people are getting on my nerves before I feel like I'm gonna drink. I need to leave.
I know that feeling.
So it's like I can't explain that other than God.
You're saying in 2020 when a lot of people went through depression because the world was stopping.
Yeah.
And God says, snap a finger. I got you.
Yeah.
Let me,
Yeah, and that was a weird time to quit drinking.
Yeah,
because everyone was drinking heavily.
It picked up their nut time.
And this was before you'd even started the full relationship with him, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
I didn't even know that he was.
So what you
working.
didn't realize, I guess, looking back, is he was beginning to like lay those foundations of drawing you closer to him.
Yeah. Well, little add in there. Aaron and I had separated in 2019. Yeah. I don't know. We separated for a little while. She also made the decision to quit drinking. Well, when she did, she automatically went straight to Jesus. She.
But the decision was independent from yours? God spoke to each of you separately?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
That's what I was just
While
saying.
we were broken up.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
He had some things to fix between the both of you.
Yeah, for sure. And she, like I said, she had a probably a little more church and family stuff in her background, so she was a little more, I guess, familiar kind of to just be able to reach out to God and pray. And so she went straight to that as soon as she stopped drinking. Me, I was kind of just still trying to do it on my own power, Well, I thought I was, but I definitely wasn't.
Like most men.
Yeah. But, there's a few years, I'd spent not drinking, and I was thinking as soon as I quit drinking, like everything was just going to be
Fix all your problems.
great. Yeah. I was like, if I'm not drinking, I'm not going to have any problems. Well, of course, I still had anger and just all kinds of regular life problems, and this whole time I'm watching God just work in Erin's life. She gave her testimony at her church and got baptized, and I'm just watching all these things happen in her life, so. And of course, she's nudging me here and there. She's like, why don't you come to church with me and da da da. And I'm kind of like, well, I don't really. I always looked at church. I was always the one that was like, well, I don't need to go to church to have a relationship with God. I was that guy. Like, I really just didn't want to go to church. But so she was nudging me here and there and
Doing what most women do to men.
Yeah.
Get them to go to church.
And there's been I go and tell you, there's been a lot of men that's been brought to the feet of Jesus by godly women.
Yeah. I mean, and thank God that she came back into my life,
Yeah.
that we came back together.
And that's
because-
and that's an encouragement to any women out there that is pursuing God. That if you're in a you're in a relationship where someone doesn't know Jesus, and you're trying to get them there, there is hope. Now I'm not like saying go missionary date. That's not what we're saying. Oh, that's not a good policy. Okay, don't use your dating life like for evangelism purposes. That might end poorly for you.
Oh, yeah.
But if you happen to be there, right, and you're trying to get someone that you love, that you care for there is hope.
There are some success stories.
Yes, there are
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
some success stories.
Yeah, he definitely used her for sure in for me. And so around, I guess it was in 2023 around November, I just started thinking to myself, I was like, man, I'm watching her life change and all these things happen, and I'm like, so maybe there's something to this, maybe I should, start being a little more open to the idea of getting closer to God and really just finding out who God is and who Jesus was. I never knew the real story of Jesus. I never read the Bible.
Most people don't.
Right.
I know, and it's crazy
lot
to
of people
realize
don't.
that. Yeah, I mean, because you think, I don't know, for some reason I kind of had this feeling like, and I think this is common for a lot of people, especially if they're trying to go to like a church or something they've never been to, they feel like people are going to judge them for not knowing stuff.
You feel that shame because like you live in the Bible Belt and you feel like everybody should know these stories, but the reality is a lot of people don't.
No, yeah.
Wait
They
until
really
you
don't.
start knowing more and somebody wants to try to shame you and then you turn around. Who's shaming who now?
Yeah, yeah.
So take us to that moment. Take us to the moment where God just got a hold of you.
So, it was, it's not like I know a lot of people have these like crazy stories about, the exact moment they were saved and all that. Mine was, I guess, as you can tell, obviously more of a longer process. But I had downloaded the Bible app, and I had, for a few days, every morning, I read the scripture and prayed and started spending time with God, which I had never done before. And I just, one day I felt closer to him, than I ever had. Like I just had this weird feeling, kind of, like a good feeling though. And I was in the bathroom at my house, that's where I spend a lot of time with God, is in the bathroom.
A lot of men's good ideas coming there.
I know, it's
I was wondering
kind
who
of
was
weird.
going to say something.
I held back.
Yeah. No, yeah, I spend a lot of time talking to God in the bathroom, and I'll just be in there, just...
Hey, no shame in that.
My wife has said, "Who are you talking to?"
The Lord. It's my prayer closet.
But yeah, I just prayed, and I just said, if I need your guidance right now. I knew I was missing something. After the years of not drinking, I was still unhappy. I was missing something, I never knew. In hindsight, I know now it was God. Mm-hmm. But I just asked him, to come into my life. I even said, show me that you're real, and that you care about me, and that this is the way I need to go. Like, if this is the way I need to go, then show me. And I wasn't ready for the ride that was coming after that. It was, I started every morning, I was reading scripture, pray. I started a Bible plan, read through the Bible front to back.
Wow.
Started going to church with Aaron, and just sure enough, just things started happening in my life. I was not as angry anymore. I had more joy, more happiness. I started rebuilding relationships. I hadn't talked to my sister in almost 3 years at that time. And I reached out to her, and like we reconciled, and I don't think I wouldn't have done that if I hadn't started.
And I just want to point out something with that. You know, a lot of people, and I've heard this. If I've heard it one time, I've heard it a million times. And it's, well, I've got to let me get these things done in my life, and then I'll accept Jesus, right? Then I'll take that step. And just your story right there, it is near impossible, if not impossible. I would even say it is impossible, personally.
Impossible.
It's impossible to straighten up your life without God.
Right.
People try that, and at that point, it's kind of a self-help kind of thing.
Yeah.
But and I'm not going to say that people don't, like, you know, go through different things like AA and stuff like that, and like you were able to stop drinking. I do think God had some involvement in that.
Oh yeah.
But it just goes to show that you come to Jesus, and He will help you with all that stuff. Like, make that your first step. If you're listening right now and you're saying, hey, Josh, I can't let go of these things in my life, take the step of, just like you said, Jesus, I need your help. I believe you died for me. I believe you rose from the dead. I give you my life. I'll let you be my God. Forgive me for where I've been wrong. I want to be better. And you give that over to Him, and He'll help you with all that other stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think Zach from Faith Promise once said it, or I might have heard it somewhere else. He's at the front door, waiting for you to let him in. Well, why doesn't he just come in? He's polite. It's your house.
Yeah.
He's not going to be rude.
He's not going to kick the door down.
Don't open the door and say, hey, how you doing? And just let him sit there. Invite him in.
Yeah.
Once you let him in, it's a whole new world.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, show him the rooms. Let him see the emotional rooms, the anger rooms. That's the way I look at it. Your brain is full. We always say there's a lot of room in my head, but you know, there's rooms in there that are in the back that you don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's some of the reason why you could be angry, sad, depressed. Open them up.
And the thing is, you let Him help you sort that through.
Yeah.
He's not opening up those doors going, oh my gosh, what's in here? He knows us. He already knows what's in there.
Already knows.
Right?
He already
And so
knows.
He's going, hey, just give this stuff over to me, and I'll help you sort it out.
Yep.
And I love that you still you reconciled with your sister, like, so.
Yeah.
So kind of where did it go from there?
Well, but I guess it was about 4 months later. I was on Facebook, and I saw the Woodsman group in one of the fishing groups I was in. And I was like, man, you know, these guys. I was like, they like fishing. You know, they follow Jesus. You know, I was like, man, I might. And y'all were having a meeting that next day. That Sunday was the next day, and I was like, man, I might go. And I told Erin about it, and she was like, oh yeah. She was like, you need to go. You need to go. I'd never done anything like that in my life.
These guys I don't
I would have been the
know.
same way.
Yeah.
I would have been the same way.
I'm going to go get on a boat with them. I don't know
Yeah.
any of
There
these
was no
people.
picture of us on there.
Yeah.
You would definitely not come.
Yeah.
Just
On
a
a-
symbol.
And our social media, like, it's still kind of rough, but it was really rough.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
All three of us on a bicycle.
I think it was the picture. I think you had the
I was holding the
boots-
fish up.
the boots on. You had the
Oh no.
the shorts with boots up to the.
That was Randy.
knees. Oh, that was Randy.
That was Randy. That was
That
Andy.
was Randy.
Okay,
yeah.
good.
You had on shorts and
Glad that picture didn't
like
make it
knee-high rubber boots.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was a picture that he saw.
What did I do in that?
It was our very first group meeting. We did
Yeah.
a group picture.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
But-
Now I remember.
So was he at the original, the first one ever?
I
So
was
which
the
one was
second,
this one?
I came to the
He came to
second
the
one
second
ever.
one.
Okay, so
Yeah.
where were we?
So we were down there at Melton Hill at your spot at the dam.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you remember, you were there. So we had Zach, we had one new guy, and it was me and you. Randy, for some reason, you couldn't be there.
Yeah.
And we divvied up, and you took two guys on the boat, and I took Zach in my boat, so he was stuck with me.
Okay, that's right. And we caught fish?
Yeah. yeah.
Okay,
I
good.
did. Yeah.
Josh didn't?
I caught a big drum. That day. That was the first time I ever caught a drum,
Awesome.
which was a bonus.
And so we got to connect with Zach, and what's cool about that is, you know, I shared Jesus with you on the boat, and even then, like you weren't like you said, I think you just given your life to Jesus not too long before
Yeah.
that, and so you're
Yeah.
still figuring this thing out.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And which was really cool because it opened up a dialogue about God between
Yeah.
you and me. And a few weeks later, you reached out to me and you said, "Hey, I've done this. I was in my house. I prayed this prayer. You was telling me the story of how it happened. I want to get baptized. Can we do it at the lake?"
Yeah.
And the cool part about this is, and we're running out of time, so I'm gonna kind of wrap this up. But the cool part about that is the way you've lived your life, dude, and the way that you've let God take over your heart and your life. Your 11-year-old son saw that,
Yeah.
and you reach out to me and said, "Hey, he wants to know Jesus. Can we meet up?" And we met up at a Pizza Hut. That was his choosing. He chose the Pizza
Yeah.
Hut.
Of course, he chose pizza.
We were the only. We were 11 years old. We were the only people. Like, I'm pretty sure the guy who was running this Pizza Hut, it was one employee. He ran the front and he cooked.
Yeah.
He looked at us like, "You're the first customers I've seen today."
Yeah.
Right? No shame on Pizza Hut, because it was the place back in the day. I don't think it's that anymore.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
But I love that because Mason gave his life to Jesus right there in that Pizza Hut.
Yeah.
Then we met down at the lake a few weeks later. I baptized you and you baptized him. And the
On
thing
Father's
is,
Day.
the thing is because on Father's Day.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
a gift.
All right.
And because of the way that you've let God in your life, you've changed like your family for generations to come.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's fully like
I'm starting to
let that sink
think
in.
about. Yeah. It is, because I didn't have that, somebody introducing me to Jesus and trying to help me know Jesus and know God at his age. So,
Well, and the cool thing is, and I've heard pastors say this before, this is just the beginning
Yeah.
for you, man. Like, you haven't peaked. This is the day that you gave your life to Jesus was day one of you getting to actually live your life.
right.
And so we got to wrap this thing up, but I do want to say this before we go of, hey, if you need help with a relationship with Jesus, if you need to talk to someone, or you just have questions, or kind of wherever you are, no matter how far gone you might think you might be, or maybe you think your life's okay, but you're looking for more. No matter where you are, you can comment on this video. You can shoot me an email at joshua.webb, that's web with 2 B's, at crew.org, or go to our Facebook page, which is Woodsman Ministries, and shoot us a private message. We'd love to talk to you about that.
Yeah.
But until then, Zach, thanks for joining us today. Man, you got a powerful story.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate that.
Proud of you, man.
Yeah.
Proud of
incredible.
you, dude. You're just getting started, man.
Yep.
Well, that's about all the time we have. We will see you guys next time.
Thank you.
Peace.
Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Words with Woodsman podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new episode. We'll see you next time.